Several months back, I see this clip of this man. He's walking down the street and he comes up to this man who was homeless, and it ends up being that I watched him basically bathe this man and give him a haircut and clean him up and help him. Former Major League Baseball player.
So obviously retirement, it was a choice, 14 surgeries. So I stepped away and I started having, some really deep, dark thoughts about, maybe not wanting to be here. And kind of what came through was the spirit of Jesus. Somebody mentioned hey, if you really want to do this, you need to go serve the people. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do.
Everywhere from Indonesia to Thailand, Uganda, India, Jordan, Tanzania, Egypt.
And even my dad, he's never done this before. He's 70 years old. He's my cameraman right now.
Come on, are you serious, brother?
It's real special right now what's happening in my life, man. We've been through a lot, I had a struggle mentally.
Someone's listening today and they're like, I want to start down some path of making a difference in the world because I know my life has some meaning. For the millions of people who won't ever run into you, they're running into you right now. What would you say to them? Welcome back to the show, everybody. Listen, when I started the show about 8 or 9 years ago, I had a purpose with doing this show, which was to change people's lives, to inspire people to make their dreams come true or make a change in their life, and then give them the strategies to do it. And as the show became more and more successful, like many shows, you can get guests on anytime you want. You can get more and more famous people on. And I started to do a lot of that, and I felt like we were missing the mark sometimes, just having a famous person after famous person on. And I want to introduce you to people that stimulate something in your heart and your soul, maybe your mind, to get you to make a shift in your life. That's really what I want to do. And then hopefully teach you some of the strategies to do it. And I found somebody today that's going to do that for you. You're going to hear a story today like you've never heard before. And let me tell you where I found him. And I know this is not my normal intro, everybody, because it's so meaningful today to me that you listen closely or watch if you're on YouTube. I'm scrolling through Instagram several months back, and I see this clip of this man, and I didn't know where he was, but it looked to me like maybe he was in a foreign country. He was a fit dude. He looked like an athlete to me. And he's walking down the street, and he comes up to this man who was homeless, and it ends up being that I watched him basically bathe this man and give him a haircut and clean him up and help him and put a little food in his belly. And I thought, my gosh, what a beautiful moment. Who is this person? And then I looked into him and his story, and I said, I want this dude on my show. I want to introduce him to the world. And so we're going to do that today. Let me tell you about him first. Former Major League Baseball player. He played for the greatest baseball team in the history of the world, the Boston Red Sox. And then he played for another team called the Chicago Cubs. I'm just kidding. He played in the big leagues, though. Known for his athleticism, had a good career. Just, guys, tons of injuries. 14 surgeries. That dream was going to end. His career ends, and I'm sure like anybody, his identity is a little bit lost. What's he going to do with his life? And through a process we'll go through today, this man ends up stepping away from pro baseball and went through this transition. And now you know what he does? He's a global humanitarian. He basically helps the most underserved people in the world. And by the way, he's done the majority of this so far on his own dime. Everywhere from Indonesia to Thailand, Uganda, India, Jordan, Tanzania, Egypt. He's helped orphans, refugees, vulnerable people, just out of his heart. And he's personally funded a lot of this. And so if you're at a stage of your life, everybody, where maybe you're ready for a change, maybe your dream's not to own a Lambo and a mansion, but you want to make a difference in your life. And maybe your identity's been attached to a relationship you were in or a business you did or money or something, and that's gone. How do you find the new you? I got the guy for you today. Ryan Kalish, welcome to the show.
Oh man, I appreciate the intro. I feel humbled and blessed to receive all that love. And yeah, it's been a journey, and I'm excited to get into it with you today.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, and I'm just meeting you. But I'm proud of you, brother. I really am. And by the way, he has something called the Hope of Life Fund, which we'll talk about a little bit. And I'm going to give you the website, even though if you're driving, you probably won't remember it, but it's givebetter.com/hope-of-life-fund in case you end up wanting to help Ryan change other people's lives. Okay, here we go, brother. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can tell it's a big jack stud athlete. Career ends. Your whole life, I know what this is like. You grew up wanting to be a baseball player. You became it, and then it was sort of taken from you. So now you're at this spot in your life. Who the heck am I? And I think there's a lot of people listening right now or watching that feel the exact same way. Take us through that period of your life and how you ended up landing on, I'm going to go to Indonesia or Thailand and help vulnerable people. How the heck does that happen?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll do my best. So obviously retirement, it was a choice, 14 surgeries. I was trying to keep playing, but my right knee was really not doing well. So I stepped away, and it was this period of 2 or 3 months where at the same time every day I was going to cry, right? Like it was just going to come out of me. And I started having, some really deep, dark thoughts about, maybe not wanting to be here.
Hmm.
So I ended up out in California, and I was like, I have to try, I have to do something, anything. So I signed up for a Pilates teacher training course. So I'm actually a certified Pilates teacher as well, although I don't really do that. And then, it was really nice to get me going through the process, try something new. And then, man, actually, just to be completely vulnerable, I kind of started abusing substance a bit. Um, Marijuana was kind of the thing, and then psychedelic drugs was in the mix.
Okay.
And it was very powerful, and I got carried away. Um, and kind of what came through was the spirit of Jesus, which was so interesting because it wasn't something I'm not religious. I never really liked religion. It wasn't my thing. And all of a sudden, here I am. I'm like, why am I thinking so much about him? Like,
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
yeah, it was a really soul touching experience. And I don't really know, like, but the way I was expressing it wasn't because I was on all of this substance. It wasn't really grounded, and it made people worried. And long story short, I went through a long mental health battle, even with that spirit kind of coming down into me. So over time, I kind of felt lost in America. I decided I need to change. I'm gonna leave. I went over to Indonesia right around 2020, and this spirit of Jesus kept coming in, but I couldn't figure out, like, I couldn't ground it. I was not behaving perfectly, like my mental health was just unstable. And then ended up getting clean, clear and clean, especially in Indonesia. It's not a place where marijuana is legal. So it was really good for me to go there.
Right.
Ended up meeting my wife,
Hmm.
along the way. I became an entrepreneur out there, started a business.
Okay.
So kind of stabilized my life, my daughter came along, which is like just such a blessing. And then we ended up moving. It was 4 years, right? We have like a pretty normal life. And we go out to Thailand. We moved to Thailand. And this was where, again, actually now in Thailand, the marijuana is legal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like fully legal there.
Yeah.
So it kind of came back into that a little. And here comes the like spirit of Jesus. And I'm like, no, I don't want this.
Hmm.
Don't mess around with substance. You have a family, like relax. So it's been I want to say it's been 16 months since I haven't had anything like that, but the spirit was still with me.
Hmm.
And I was like, what am I to do with this? But this feels like a calling, And I'm like, okay. I went out to Austin, Texas. I was trying to connect with certain people, didn't quite work out. And I was sitting by this river, and I was feeling anxious, and it was like this spiritual calling of like, the reason that you don't feel good yet is because you're not really walking with Jesus yet. And I like, somebody mentioned like, hey, if you really want to like do this, you need to go like serve the people. And I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I do. And so, as a baseball player, when you get a mission and you get that calling, like I got when I was 5 years old for baseball, now I have this new one, and I'm like, let's go. So I flew out it started in Egypt on Easter last year.
Wow.
Went to a church with these underprivileged kids, started serving, and I just started moving. And I've been doing it once a month ever since. I met like another humanitarian, but he was really good at content creation in Uganda. And he taught me some of the stuff. And I started to think like, well, how can I raise money and get my message out if I'm not recording this? I don't really love it
I can tell. I can
because you're
tell.
kind of putting people, people's lives out there. But we ask everyone, and if somebody says no, we don't show it. Of course, most.
Let me jump in. I want to say that first because I want you to keep going, but I want to just pull kind of some clues out of what you said, brother. And that is, number one, you did something to change your life, I think, like when identity like that ends, whether you're divorced or business fails, or you're just like chasing something in your life and it just occurs to you midway through, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, right? Success leaves clues. A couple things happened that I want to make sure that people know you did. Number one, you did take some time
Yeah.
to like listen to the voice on your heart, which you say is Jesus, right? But like just to get quiet and just maybe not go to the next thing right away. Maybe take a moment to yourself and listen to your soul, listen to your spirit. And so I just think that's success clue number one. Okay. That I want everyone to pull out of this from Ryan. Number two, God uses imperfect people. So
Mm.
I'm so grateful that you're vulnerable. Hey, man, I'm smoking a lot of weed, doing some psychedelics, and you're self-soothing is what you were really doing during those
Yeah,
times,
for
right?
sure. Yeah.
But the second part of it is when you're feeling helpless in your life, get helpful, get
Mm.
helpful. And that's really what you did. Now, I can't imagine when you sign your deal with the Red Sox that you're like, you know what, in whatever amount of years, within the next 10 years, I'm going to be in Uganda giving
Yeah,
some
yeah,
dude on
yeah.
the street some isn't life amazing? So how does this service start? How did you know who to serve? Or you know what I'm saying? Like people always think, well, how did he get started? Did you just like go, I don't know, but I'm going to take some action next? What happened to get it going?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just, well, a quick story. When I was 6 years old, my mom told me we were in Washington, D.C., and she told me I got angry. And she's like, why are you mad? And I was like, well, why is that guy on the street sleeping and that building so nice?
Wow.
So it was kind of potentially always there for me. And once, even during my baseball career, one of my dad's friends, or my best friend's dad said, if you want to be close to God, when you see somebody really struggling, throw them $5. And it always kind of stuck with me. So I always had the eye for seeing vulnerability. And so, especially in Uganda, when it came down, like my friend was already doing this for many years, such an amazing story, Congolese refugee starts, gets over into Uganda and starts feeding kids on the street when he was 15.
Wow.
And he started, kind of doing that. So that was where I already could have the eye for for the vulnerable, but now I'm starting to mix in like, how do I build this message,
Yeah.
build it into whatever it's going to do? You have to share it. So that was that moment there. And then, I've been to India 4 times. I've done it in Thailand, all over the place. And I just figure out a team, I find people that kind of, the path, it leads itself if you're willing to walk it.
Yeah. What it feel like the first time, or what's it feel like? By the way, it's amazing to me that this has only really been a year or two. I didn't realize that.
1 year.
It's crazy, Ryan. I mean, the amount of places you've done. I love that you use the word vulnerable people. Tim Tebow's a good friend. He's been on the show a bunch of times, and we live near each other. We speak at a lot of similar engagements. And he said, I always wanted to be an MVP when I was playing football. And he said, I do now, but it's a different thing. It means I want to help the most vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And Tim does that. He's
Yeah, he
actually
does.
he's the real deal on it. But I think sometimes with Tim, and I can say this, I think people look at him and he's like almost perfect, you know, and what and frankly, he is. He's and what I love about you is like, you're like, no, I'm imperfect. And yet I'm still making a difference because most of us as humans, we look at ourselves and go, I'm not qualified. I can't help anybody. I can't even help myself. Why should I be helping other people? And that's not the truth. I'm wondering, compare the two feelings, hitting a jack in baseball in the big leagues and you're circling the bases, and be honest. Compare that feeling to like the first time you fed somebody who had no food on the street. You know, when I coach people one-on-one, the main question I get asked that we work on as well is scaling. And if you're going to scale a business, it takes the right expertise at the right time. That's why I love Upwork. Upwork helps growing teams quickly bring in specialized freelancers so you can move faster and take the business to the next level. When you're hiring people, it shouldn't be a big headache, and you shouldn't have to look forever to find the right people for a specific type of work or niche. And Upwork makes it easy to hire specialized freelancers quickly so you can get the expertise you need now without waiting or all the recruiting or all the back and forth or even having to hire somebody full time. The fastest growing businesses aren't doing more, they're delegating smarter. Upwork helps you bring in freelance experts really fast. We've done it in a couple of ours, including this podcast. Go check it out, trust me. And so, by the way, it's free to sign up, and posting a job is easy. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free to connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. You know what's exploding right now? Online shopping. And let me tell you where, Whatnot. Listen, I've seen shows, I've seen the rankings, and I've seen the revenue numbers, and the number of sellers making over $1 million a year on Whatnot has doubled in the last year. Can you imagine that? $1 million a year? So if you're selling online out of a storefront, maybe full-time or a side hustle, you already know the challenge. You're hoping for people to find you, know you exist, buy your stuff. Whatnot flips that. On Whatnot, you go live and you sell directly to people in real time. They see what you got, they ask questions and buy. Here's the hook. They keep coming back. It's something I've never seen before. Sellers are building real thriving businesses. So whether you're starting up or you got a big one already, I can tell you something. Whatnot's what you need to look at. Whatnot buyers spend more than an hour a day in the app. They're bidding, buying, and coming back. And I got to tell you, I've seen the buzz. You've seen the buzz. Go check it out for yourself firsthand. So here's what you do. Go download the Whatnot app today and get free shipping on your first order. Just search WHATNOT, Whatnot, in the App Store and start scoring amazing deals.
They're exactly the same. They have this, and then like my dad, I'm saying with my parents, this moment here, being able to talk about my journey with such a man as you, they're all like the same. They all have that, just that like adrenaline rush. But there's also this thing that you like me, even my dad, he's never done this before. He's 70 years old. He's starting to when we go out there. He's my cameraman. He's my cameraman right now.
Come on, are you serious, brother?
It's real special right now what's happening in my life, man. Like we've been through a lot, I had a struggle mentally. They've seen me through a lot. And so for him to be here on the journey,
wow,
like feeling it, he's taking, it's a spiritual richness that giving back and helping people and just seeing like, wow, like, a lot of people all around the world are in a difficult position. And, it's like, I don't know where it's all leading.
Wow.
But I'm like, I'm here and I want to be a leader in this world now. I feel like it's the time.
Bro, it is. And I think often in life we think we're not qualified. And I often say, I think you're most qualified to help the person you used to be. And if you're lost in your life, you're helping people that to some extent are lost or have been left behind in your case. How beautiful, bro, that your dad, I didn't know your dad was the cameraman.
Well, this trip, it always varies, but this one is like extra special.
Bro, no question. Tell your dad thank you for the work he's doing and God bless him. I'm sure you weren't easy and going through your mental health stuff and they probably stood through you through some tough times.
For sure.
Yeah. One thing I want you to picture, everybody, before I get into some more questions. When you see his work now, you're like, oh, there's this man, he, cut his hair on the street. And it's beautiful the way you care for people, bro. It's this big, strong dude. He's walking up to people on the street. But now it's being filmed because you got to raise money for it and all that. But just remember this when you're watching these videos, guys. That's not how it started. It started with a man that's like, I just feel like I need to help people. There was no camera. There was no plan. There was no idea of what it was going to be. He wasn't promoting anything. He was just doing it. And so not everything you do has to be on Instagram the minute you do it. And maybe nobody will ever know you've made this difference. That doesn't mean it doesn't count. God's watching you, the difference you're making every day. And so when you do, what have you learned? Sometimes you walk by somebody who's on the street and you can feel bad for them or something maybe. and or judge them or what happened to their life or whatever it is. What what do you now know about people that are vulnerable like that some of us that have not done that work don't know? Meaning how you look at them, how you view them, how their life status. Like what do you see and know about them we don't?
All right, so this is a great question. In India, I cut about 50 people's hair that can't afford it. People might not even accept to cut their hair. They're living on the street. And yes, some of them they're drinking, some of them. Start cutting people's hair, and you see scars, like big scars, like surgical scars, and potentially, maybe they had a bike accident early in their life. Maybe they were abused. Like, so the whole point is that we don't know how they got there. And so with the spirit of Jesus with you,
Mm-hmm.
the having compassion for these people and like, we just don't know how they got there. And even if they did get there on their own doing, like, I feel like they deserve more chances than whatever it is that they've had, because some of us are privileged and some of us are just born into, they're never going to have anything. And so like, for me, I really, try and just always keep that in mind with everyone that I meet. Because it's real, man. Like, I would say 70% of those guys that I cut that hair had some sort of significant head scar, which would, be a head trauma potentially.
Indicate a lot of abuse probably in their life, more than likely.
Yeah, exactly. And so, being here in America too, like, I mean, I haven't cut people's hair yet. It doesn't seem necessarily like something everybody wants, but I see souls pretty well now, and I could feel that like so many people just I don't know, man. They didn't have the luck, and they didn't have like, I don't know, like the David Goggins mindset of being able to push through everything, and that's like, not everyone can be David, and we need to have that compassion to like have systems in place, to be able to do. I think we can do better, is what I'd say.
Well, you are, bro. And when I was younger, I used to use the term weak and strong. And as I've traveled the world, you know, I don't necessarily believe in that all the time. Meaning, just because somebody's in a difficult situation or they're down on their luck doesn't mean they're weak. Maybe they just made a bunch of, by the way, you've acknowledged you've made bad decisions in your life. So have I. Just for the grace of God, I've been able to land on my feet many different times. And so, your work gave me perspective in the sense that, let me tell you what it did for me, and I'll have you speak to it. I think I do a pretty good job at, like, how many people do I walk by in a given day that I don't even see? Meaning, and I'm not just talking about someone who's on the street. I'm talking about someone in the grocery store, someone at the airport. We have a lot in our lives where our heads are in our phones and we don't even see each other anymore. And what I love about what you're doing is, especially people on the street, you know what most people do? They keep their head up and they walk right by them. And if I don't look at them and I don't see it, I don't have to deal with it. But I think that's a metaphor for life. I think a lot of us walk by each other every day and don't see one another anymore like we should. Do you feel that way too?
Absolutely, man. I see it all. It's all over the world. It's not specific to any one country. And, I also have compassion for, this is the society that's been created. Life is happening fast. And so it's easy to get swept away. And I think that it can do, all of us good to, just step back and try. Cause like, I mean, I wasn't always doing this either. So it's like, I'm not, if you haven't done it, it's not like, hey, come on. But there's a little bit of like, come on. I know we could all do a little more, but it's like life, I mean, life is short. And so we're only here for a short time. So if you haven't got there yet, it's not like a knock on you. It's just like, it takes, time and life circumstances to get you to that place. But, man, I was listening to your podcast with Pete Holmes, and you were talking about your dad.
Yeah.
It's like, what am I going to leave behind?
Yeah.
I'm not going to leave my car. It's like, what impact am I going to leave behind? That's what I'm after now.
Yeah, bro, you are. I actually was thinking while we were talking, this is no joke, about my conversation with Pete while we were just talking. And because he and I have talked about this off camera too. And, you know, I, you can't, if you're a Christian, you don't earn your way into heaven, right?
Mm.
That's been earned for you if you're a believer. But whatever your faith belief is, set that aside even for a second today. A buddy of mine gave me a compliment one time, and it's just, I kept the message. And it was
Yeah.
after a speech I gave. But here's what he said to me. This is where I think about you, and I want everyone to think about this. He said, bro, you can't earn your way into heaven, but what you did today, and it was a speech that I gave. And he said, it makes me emotional, but he said, I just want you to know there's going to be a long line in heaven when you get there with people there to thank you for making a difference in their life. And whether that's true or not is immaterial. I've not stopped thinking since that day about, what can I do to make sure that I've helped somebody? And
Yeah.
you made me think that. Truly, like, try to describe for it. Like, what does it feel like you get back to the hotel and you just help 3 or 4 people that day on the street? And you, by the way, spent your own money so far, mainly. I want everyone to understand that. Do you get back? Is it lonely? Is it fulfilling? Is it emotional? Do you cry? Like, when you make a difference, I want everyone to feel for a second like they're sitting there going, does my life have meaning? I don't
Sure.
feel like I'm probably ever going to own a Lambo or a mansion, and I don't even know that I want one anyway. What's my life mean? That's what most people daily, and it causes depression, by the way.
Yeah.
They conclude it. Most people subtly, slowly, bro, if we're being honest, this is why I'm so glad we're doing this today. I think most people are reaching the conclusion, I don't matter. My
Yeah.
life doesn't really matter much. And I think this causes a sense of depression in people, that they don't feel like they have meaning in their life, or that they matter, or that their life matters. And so, does this give you a sense of that a little bit in your life when you get back to the hotel afterwards, or what are you feeling?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I would say to anyone who I know, even for me still, when you're going to go step out of your normal, like take care of myself only routine, it's uncomfortable. The feeling is there for me almost every time I go do it. In the morning, oh, I could just go to the sauna. I could just go to the gym. No, I know what feeling I'm going to have after I do this. And the feeling at the end is like, at the end of the day, when I'm sitting back, it's just like this pure, like I'm a very anxious person if I'm out of alignment with my truth. And at the end of the day, it's like, it's just so like, I did it again today. And like, but it is also, at least for me, because I'm an athlete, like I have a pretty, I guess, major league goal for all of this. Like I want to go further.
Let me ask you this. Are there moments where you're like, I'm totally not the person that should be doing this? Like, do you feel inadequate often?
No, no, not anymore. No, I mean, Jesus was a carpenter, apparently. So it's like, I mean, I don't have a degree, but I have the heart. And I feel like I could be a really good leader here on earth for connecting back to the message of Jesus, which isn't that different from what Muhammad was saying. It's not very different from Krishna. I think all of these guys are, I'm connecting a lot to the Lakota nations, their prophets. It's kind of all about like taking care of the planet, taking care of the people. And you said it just on your last podcast with Pete as well. It's like with politics is like where sorry, using the word sorry, using the word love, like where I'm like, where's that? Like,
Right, right.
like
Humility
it's
is not, humility seems to not be rewarded in the world today. You've got to
yeah,
always be right. I have this thing I want to ask you about.
yeah, sure.
How much of your old identity had to die for this to happen? And what I mean by that is this. I'll tell you an interesting story. I have this, about this property, and on the property, there's these bald eagles. Um, we called them Fred and Wilma. They were this married couple, and they lived there about 15 years before I bought the property. Anyway, long story short, Fred passed away, and now Wilma is a widow. And I had the people from the bird sanctuary place come out, and they're like, well, she's probably going to pass in the next year or two as well. And I said, okay. And they said, just, at her age, and plus when they lose their loved one, they lose their will to live. Anyway, like 6 weeks later, I hear this like pecking noise in the mornings on like these rocks. I'm like, do we have woodpeckers? Like, what's going on?
Mm.
And I find out it's Wilma hammering her beak against the rocks. I'm like, is she trying to kill herself? What's happening? Then the next time I saw her, she looked like she'd lost a lot of her feathers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's dying. So I called the people at the bird sanctuary. Actually, the caretaker of my island did. So I said, what's going on? I think she's in this process of killing herself. And the bird sanctuary people got so emotional, like, oh my God, that's not what she's doing at all. She's remaking herself. She said 2% of these eagles go through a process where they remake themselves. What she's doing is she's sharpening her beak, and she's plucking all the feathers off of herself that no longer serve her.
Yeah.
And she's going to remake her life, and she could extend her life by double. And guess what? Wilma is still alive. She's remarried. She's had a baby, and she's flying strong now. And what she did is that old identity had to die. She had to pluck out of herself all these things that didn't serve her anymore. And I think that's a metaphor for life. Old identities, old beliefs, maybe some old relationships. You have to pluck them in order to make room for the new. Did you have to do some of that being an athlete?
You have no idea. It's like it's happened multiple times. And even to the point where sometimes my phone is very quiet, but since I'm so like in touch with me and I know the path is unveiling itself, that like I used to, crave like people to text me all the time and stuff like that. And now I'm just like, it's good. Like enjoy the peace because I don't think it's going to last forever. It's a season of the life where you're like trying to build something. I mean, April 20th will be year one. Easter was, 420 of last year. So
So you changed your life smoking all this weed on 420.
not last year, but in my past, yes.
Yeah,
Last year
but it was 420. That's an ironic date.
420 was Easter, and I was at the church in Egypt, and that was a huge shift. But like,
Got you.
obviously, it was kind of funny. I'm like, huh, that's interesting that Easter is 420 this year.
By the way, just to tell you, I want you to keep going. That's the day my dad got sober. And my dad celebrated that day, but all my life I thought only my old man would get sober on 420. So anyway, keep rolling though, keep going.
Well, I mean, we were talking about like my Jesus was a person who lived a life. He didn't really talk about any teams. He didn't say the word Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, but he's in all of them. How did he do that? Because he just took care of people. He loved God and he loved thy neighbor as himself.
Hmm.
So the more that we can connect back to that message, I'm not saying like the religions are bad. I'm just saying like the person that lived the life is like what I'm focused on. And the more of us that feel connected to that spirit, no matter your religious belief, because that archetype is in all of them. The caretaker, the bridge builder, the peacemaker, like what Jesus was, he's everywhere in the world, in different forms. And so the more that we connect back to that, and then, like obviously, let's just be honest, the modern day Pharisees are still here. They haven't gone anywhere.
Look at you. I'm so impressed. Was there one thing though of the former you that had to go away? You said one was like need for attention, right?
Sure.
I relate to that too. Like as I became more well known, I think there's an addiction to that. Like, oh, people know me. Oh, I walk in a room. And as I've purposely sort of tried to shrink my public profile, it's a navigation I have of I'm enjoying the piece of it, but there's still this thing like I'm not quite that I'm not getting the attention. So was that the main thing you had to peel away, or what had to die or what feather had to be plucked that was the biggest thing with you for you to remake you?
Well, I would say that in baseball, you live a very selfish life.
Yeah.
It's all about you and the now and what you're doing. And now I feel like I'm living for something greater than myself, although it's still, it's a balancing act. Like I do want to be seen. I have that same want, but not just for an act, like not just so I can make it to the big leagues in the here and now. It's like, well, I have a daughter, you know, like I don't like I'm a little nervous about what I'm seeing. And I want to like try and be the change that I would like to see in the world for like her kid and their kids and beyond. Like I have a video I'm going to put out today. I said that I don't think Jesus was just living for like his life. He was trying to show us how we grow a society based more on love and heart rather than the greed and the service to just power and money. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to be a bridge for that.
Mm. Did you have to let go of that? You know, one of the things that comes with being a big league baseball player is money,
Yeah.
and a lot potentially. I was just reading what Otani's making. I was like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
he's like in a world economy all of himself. And the attachment, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with making a lot of money if that's what you want to do. But did you have to detach from that? Because you basically went from making money to do what you're doing to now giving it away. You give your time, your focus, your attention, your energy, and your money to this cause. You give a lot, and I know you don't want to take a lot of credit for it, but there's a lot of giving. And you know, today I'm going to try to help a little bit with you receiving because I'm going to make you promote your site. But was that one of the things you had to sort of abandon? Is this attachment to, I don't know, stuff, physical,
Yeah.
material stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, 7 years ago, even before I got into the service, I started like kind of selling material possessions.
Mm.
It was kind of it's naturally happened to the point where I literally have a suitcase of items.
Hmm.
I have my daughter, I have my wife. Those are the treasures, you know. And getting back to Jesus, he says, like, you know, he says, sell your treasures now here on earth and you'll have treasures in heaven, you know. So I'm really into his message. And so it was kind of just like naturally a part of me. But to be honest, Ed, I kind of wanted to bring this up with you is I struggle. Like I don't love money. I just feel like there's a balance that could do us a bit of favor where we like really, so I'm still like, I want to get money because I want to do good with it. And of course, I want more and more safety for my family, which right now we're fine. But honestly speaking, like at some point I need to make this bigger to keep it going. And like I want to do more sustainable stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
money is necessary.
Ryan, great answer. Because I have to tell you, feel like I think today's one of these shows where like people are just listening to two dudes talk, you know, about
Yeah, yeah,
life. One making an unbelievable difference in the world, and then one interviewing him, which is me. But I've struggled with that too because I've accumulated a lot of money and I've pursued it. Now
yeah,
I've pursued it in my mind at being rewarded for doing good for others. But it is a unique nuance of I want to give and make a difference. I also want my own family to be safe. Because you said your two treasures are your wife and your daughter. Well, that means one of your obligations is to care and protect them, and likewise, they'll care and protect for you. And so I'll tell you an interesting thing. This is a little bit different level, but I'm recently doing like estate stuff, like because I'm 55 and I've had some health issues. So I have to think about this world and my life post me,
mm,
you know? And one of the things they ask you when you have a couple bucks is like, well, how much do you want to leave to your family? And how much do you want to leave to the
yeah,
causes that you want to have? And I'm in the midst of making those decisions right now. And it's difficult. It's difficult
sure.
to, I don't want to feel selfish when I'm making money or leaving it to my family. At the same time, I want to make sure they're cared for and protected. And so I very much relate. It's why I admire you so much. You've decided kind of on faith to go, I'm going to go into service
Yeah.
and I'll figure the way and the path to also care for my family. I think that's sort of what you're doing.
Yeah, well, I have a business. It's kind of a break even thing right now. And
Mm.
so, but yeah, it's like, okay, why can't I grow this into something more? I feel like with the world the way it is, like there are people doing it, you know, like the MD motivator guy. I don't
Yeah.
know if, yeah, he's like,
Yes.
he's grown a huge thing. And like, you know, and consistency as a former athlete, like I know how that grows things. You know that as a businessman,
Yeah.
you know, consistency, action, faith with you know, for me, this is definitely like a bit of a divine calling. And you know, I said even my friend Chase Iron Eyes in the Lakota Nation, I was telling him like my whole story recently. He's like, this is in our world, this is divine calling. Like, so there's a little like it's like that balance between fear and love, you
Mm.
know? So
I'm going to ask you one of the hardest questions I've ever asked on the show. You're going to hate this, but I want to ask you it. So there's this idea that a lot of people believe, which is like we need to care for our own country first before we go care for the world. There's a political ideology that says that. I think a lot of people nod their head when they hear it. Then I've got other friends that go, bro, there's poor in the United States. That's one type of poor. And then there's poor in some parts of the world, and that's a different poor. And because I haven't traveled that much, I've not been exposed, I really don't know. And so help us, those of us that have not traveled the world and seen poverty in other nations or other places. What is there?
there's a bit of a difference. I mean, I guess it's such a in the United States, it's such a contrast because most of the terrain is really nice. You know, streets are paved well, sidewalks are nice. And then, you know, there's these forgotten people by the system. Now, I'll say there's a lot more of a drug problem here than there is overseas. You know, people might be into the alcohol on the street, but you don't have the same erratic, you know, kind of like drug problems where you kind of see people talking to a wall like you do in the United States. Like people are, I guess they're, I don't know, they're on the streets. Yeah, and Africa is just so it's just so poor and it's sad. And I have so many like things and about to say about that in my life. But it's like for the most part, you know, people are sober. They can't even get to, you know, pharmaceutical drugs and opioids and all the things that are on our streets. So, and you know, it's kind of like Africa is just overall more poverty, has more poverty. Same with India. It kind of, I guess, it blends in a little bit. Like, whereas here it's just like so stark and drastic when you see it, because like you could just see this amazing businessman or woman walking with a nice suit and a Louis Vuitton bag, and then there's this just poor person like picking dirt out of their feet. You know, I'm down here in Phoenix. I had no idea what the situation was. It's really bad here. It's really hurts me in my soul because I can just feel that we are not attentive to those things.
Mm.
Which again kind of leads me back to like, you know, we're a Christian nation. That's Jesus territory, man. Like we got to step up our game. That's what this guy said. What you do for the least of these, you do for me.
Gosh, bro, you're
So
so good. You're so unique.
I have
This is,
I have like I'm like a little sad and mad a lot of time.
I could see it. I can see that in you, by the way. Actually, I think for me anyway, that's coming across. I can see this kind, giving man, but he's still a little bit pissed too.
Yeah, I'm
And there's that the world has got to this extent. Help me understand something. I'm like really going there with you today. As I've traveled, and most of my travels are US, I travel internationally to speak, but usually when I do it, to be really honest with you, I'm there a day and I'm gone. So I've not
pissed.
spent time like what you have. I've done some missionary work in my life in the world. I'm not going to talk about that on the show today, but for the most part, when I speak, I travel in the US. And certainly the last 10 years, the major cities that I go to, whether it be Austin, Texas, or San Francisco, or LA, or Phoenix, Arizona, or Portland, Maine, where I have a place, or wherever, the growing population of people that are unhoused or homeless is just dramatically exploded, right? And a lot of the times when I see folks, take us into what you see, educate us. I do see a lot of drug use. I have to say that. Like I see a lot of needles, I see a lot of drug use, I see a lot of heroin, a lot of meth. I do see that. And I started to form that picture in my head. And then I went, okay, they're drug users or mental health issues. Then one morning, I was going to get a cup of coffee, and I watched a woman come out of a tent
Mm,
in a business suit. And I watched her walk out of the tent. This was in Portland, Maine, to the bus stop.
sure.
And I watched her get on a bus. I thought that was interesting. And so about 2 weeks later, I saw the same woman, and I asked her. And she's like, well, my husband left, I had a drug problem, but I'm completely sober. And she appeared to me to be completely sober. And she said, I work at a bank. I just got the job there part-time. And right now I'm so down on my luck. It's just easier for me. It's the summertime. I'm living here to save money because I cannot afford my own house with what I make. Rent here is so high. And she's really making a minimum wage income when she started. And it changed my heart a little. I'm like, wow, there's different profiles. There are people who are using drugs. There is mental illness.
Yeah.
But then there are people like this woman who's just fallen on such difficult times, and she actually is working and could not afford a place to live just yet. And I know there'll be people in the comments right now go, that's... No, I'm telling you, there's such a dire split in our country between rich and poor. And certainly this must be the case in the world. This woman's trying to change her life and work, and she cannot afford a roof over her head currently. Do you see a little bit of that when you travel and help people? And I know that's the exception, not the rule. But who do you see on the street when you're on the street? Who are they?
Oh man. Well, I see yesterday I talked to a guy who he was talking about his education background. But mainly it's not, I would say it's like 50% that drug mental health problem, and just a lot of people who have gotten kicked and kicked and kicked by the system, veterans all the time, which is really sad because like those guys have been through something in like service to the country. Obviously, I don't agree with war, but they've gone overseas for their country and come back, and their mental health for killing people overseas can be at risk, and the programs are very bad. I say this to people: the United States dollar is a strong dollar everywhere except the United States. And so when you're been kicked and you might have made a few mistakes, man, you can get down quick, and then it's like your spirit is down. And I don't know, man. I go back to Jesus. He says you can't serve God and mammoth, which means money. So the spirit of God seems to be getting kicked down out of people because circumstances, choices, currency, power, especially at home. You make a few bad choices, man, and you make a few mistakes, or you just have a tough time. There's a lot of things stacked against you right now in this system.
Bro, I'm so wonderful to talk with you. I hope for the audience too, I hope I've asked the questions that you would want asked, and I've asked them respectfully. I hope. I mean, I want to learn and understand more too, so that I can make a bigger difference in the world. And I also want to understand the mindset of somebody who's gone from, I mean, just miraculous, world class, top 1% of 1% of 1% of athletes on the planet, had a setback, started behaving in ways he didn't like. He's like, no, I want to turn my life around, and I'm going to do it by helping the most vulnerable people in the world. I just think it's beautiful. And you've really made me think too about myself. And I know you're doing that for a lot of other people. And a lot of you that are looking for a change in your life, maybe it's not just to start a business. Maybe it's to start doing something where you just care with your gift or your heart for people that need you in whatever way that means. Maybe that's your path. Maybe it is a business. Maybe it is to make more money. Maybe it is to take care of your family. But also maybe it's not. Maybe it's like what Ryan's doing. And maybe it's your own version of that. I have a friend of mine who left a business, and she still has she took a job, but basically what she does now is she rescues animals. And she went from making $200,000 a year, and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to downsize my life. I'm going to sell my house. I can live in a smaller place. She's making $80,000 a year now, and she rescues animals. And she's never been happy in her life. And I want to at least expose people through this show from time to time to people that have taken a different path. It's not all about scaling a business. It's okay. I can have the guy who ran Tesla on a few weeks ago, and I can have you on today, and you guys can get exposed to both of those views of the world. And I very much admire what you're doing, bro. Very much. I still have one more question for you, though. But before I do it, because you won't promote it, I'm going to. We'll put this in the show notes. If you want to give to help this guy continue his work, go to givebetter.com/hope-of-life-fund. Or you can follow him on Instagram, which is I am Ryan Kalish. And that's Kalish. Okay, last question, stud. someone's listening today and they're like, I'm kind of emotional. And, I want to start down some path of making a difference in the world because I know my life has some meaning. And maybe I feel like I haven't lived up to quite what I'm capable of. What would you say? Because you're going to run into these people, especially after this interview, bro, right? You're going to run into these people like, hey, and they're going to ask you that question. That'll be one of the questions you get. So for the millions of people who won't ever run into you, they're running
Yeah.
into you right now. What would you say to them?
Well, first of all, like you said, if you're feeling that way and like, a little bit emotional and like, damn, I wish I'm doing something, like give yourself a hug, be compassionate to yourself because I wasn't always here. It took me 37 years to get here, basically, before I've been doing this particular work for a year. So be gentle. And then, yeah, I would say like, obviously, it doesn't have to be at the scale that I'm doing it. It does like, but make it a part of your routine to where like maybe you just volunteer somewhere locally. Like there are people suffering outside of everyone's homes all over this world. And the more that we can connect, like you said, to the fact that our lives actually do matter and we can make a difference and connect to, that's kind of like there's a separation between the prophets and us, like Jesus and you. But and you read the Bible, he talks a lot about how actually I am in you and you are in God and all this. Like he's talking about oneness. So
Mm.
maybe we can't all heal people's, blindness on their eyes, but we can all take a step towards helping someone in a small way here or there. And the more of us that do it, our collective consciousness turns up. And all of a sudden, I don't know if that like I don't know when or if like the leaders of our world are going to get that heart, but they can. Like the more of us that do it, because maybe it's not this generation, maybe it's your kid or their kid who finally makes their way into politics and brings the world together. So we are powerful. We are not that separate from God, I don't think. So that's it.
Bro, it's so good. You use the word collective consciousness there at the end, and that makes me feel like it's confirmed I was supposed to have you on because for years, I haven't in a long time, I've talked about that. And I really believe this is just one dude's opinion, but that is what needs to change in this world is the frequency and the collective consciousness of our culture. We're getting the leaders, you guys, that we deserve, and we need to ask more of them. And that means raising our consciousness. And I think every single day, it's just finding a way to make the world better in your way. And you are qualified, and you're not an imposter, and it's not too late, and you've not screwed up too much, and you're not too old, and you're not too young. And here's the biggest thing Ryan's taught me. You don't have to have it all figured out.
No.
He's figured it out as we're doing the show today. What's the business model going to be? How's he sustain it for his family? He just started making a
Yeah.
difference and finding a way to serve. True?
Yeah. And I don't have all the answers today. Like
Yeah.
we might never. This is just one lifetime of a planet of a space rock that's been floating for however long it's been floating. Like if we get 80 years here, we're lucky. And I joked with my wife there the other day. I said, do we ever really become adults? We're just like kids, forever.
By the way, the happiest people don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The happiest people spend their life at play as much as they can and in service. And by the way, as I'm looking at you, this is a funny thing to say at the end. Most people are listening on audio, but everybody, if you're watching, he kind of looks like Jesus. At least our picture that we've been shown of him all these years. So anyway, I just had to say that at the end 'cause it's been on my mind the entire time. Ryan, I'm really glad I had you on. And
Thank you.
I hope I've given everybody exposure to just for today, man. Just look at your life a little differently. There are people, even though Fox News and CNN and whoever else you watch doesn't report on it every night. Guess what, everybody? There are people in the world doing good and making a
Absolutely.
difference. And you can, and probably already are one of them. You could just maybe do a little more after today. So, Ryan, thank you.
I really appreciate you having me on. It's such an honor.
Oh, bro, the honor's mine. Stop it. Everybody, this is one you share. You hit the share button. You say, you know what? You want to feel better? You want to make a difference in the world, listen to this conversation that was on the Mylett show with Ryan Kalish. Love you all, everybody. God bless you, and Max out.